Please, colleagues, therefore, remember to use the microphones or you won't be heard on the live streaming. And please, you need to seem to be quite close to them for them to work. So we'll begin the live streaming now. And good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this meeting of the Essex Joint Committee. A warm welcome to members of the public who've joined us here in person, and also to those joining us online. If you're here in person, the usual very polite reminder that this is a meeting which is held in public. It's not a public meeting, but thank you very much for being with us. So welcome everybody. There are some apologies for absence. I'm not proposing to read the list of those. The next item on the agenda is the Register of Interests. This is a new committee that's been set up. We are slowly acquiring everyone's Register of Interests, which I hope will be formally complete for the next meeting. So if colleagues haven't brought them in, please would you do so. Does anyone looking at the agenda have any conflicts of interest other than the obvious if you're part of a different part of the setup? I don't think so. So thank you very much for that. We have, well, it says questions from the public. It's a comment rather, and this is from Peter Blackman, who is chair of the South Woodham Ferrers Health and Social Care Group, and asked that we, well, he's asked it as a question, but it says, on behalf of the people of South Woodham Ferrers, may I please welcome the formation of the Essex Joint Committee and wish you very well for your work in the coming months to prepare for the launch of the Essex ICB. The formation arrangements you are considering today seem comprehensive and to the point. Thank you for meeting in public so that we can follow your workings. At this very difficult time for staff in Mid and South Essex, North East Essex and West Essex, would you please pass on our sincere thanks for all the work done and efforts made by all staff who have worked in those areas, including during COVID and its aftermath. You are much appreciated. To all those who will not be with us in the Essex ICB, we give our thanks and all best wishes for your futures. We ask that those who are responsible for decisions are mindful of the need to support those leaving. And to those who will be working to forge the Essex ICB in the coming months and who will be the staff launching the Essex ICB, we offer our thanks for your dedication and our best wishes for your endeavours. We will do our best to continue as your critical friends. And on that issue, thank you, Peter, for your comments and well wishes. And on being a critical friend, we're familiar with that and we value it. Thank you, of course. And I would just echo those comments from the chair. These are very, very busy times indeed for the executive functions in all three of the integrated care boards which have come round this table for this joint committee. And it's almost a miracle, actually, that the day-to-day delivery of health and care continues while all this level of change and at this pace of change is being delivered. So we all owe those colleagues a huge debt of gratitude. And Tom, as Chief Executive, will you make sure that our thanks are passed on to colleagues? Thank you very much. So now go on to the next item of the agenda, which is the approval of the Essex Joint Committee terms of reference and the work plan. Now, in terms of the terms of reference, we've seen those documents a number of times because they had to be, so to speak, approved by us working as a working group, and then they had to go back to the boards for amendments and so on, and then we have the final version there. I think they've therefore been seen rather a number of times. Has anyone still got anything they wish to raise? It will be most welcome if you have, but I'm not really expecting that there will be. Good. So it says here we're to approve them. We have indeed approved them, yes? Thank you very much indeed. And now in terms of the work plan, there is a lot there against a demanding schedule. And so I do wonder if we might say is this actually capable of getting done to this degree? I'm conscious, by the way, that at the moment more national policy is coming out in a drip feed. I understand the reason for that, which is people are trying to reorganise the way that the NHS conducts its affairs, and so there's bound to be material coming out. But all our colleagues have got to have time to read that, digest it, prepare effective materials and responses to it, and at the same time, as we speak, we've just begun a consultation about reducing the size of each and every one of the integrated care boards around this table. And so, Tom, could we look to you, please, perhaps to talk to colleagues and just respond to the question. This, to us, I believe, seems a lot, and people are nodding round the table. Could you please sort of see what is possible? And maybe it's some of the ones will be, we can't give you a detailed thing, but we could give you a framework about what this might involve. Maybe others simply have to be better developed or whatever. But could you please reflect on that? And do you think this is a reasonable thing to be saying to the executive team?
Yes, of course, Mike. So I think we'll bring it back to the executive team, given some of the recent developments that there's been as well, and the workload that's going to be on the team over the course of the next few months. And so we will come back with an updated set of proposals for the work plan.
Thank you. We're not, as it were, trying to let anybody off in so doing, but we need a quality output, and we need people, therefore, to have time to think about what needs to be done. So thank you very much for that. So I'm now moving on to the next item, which is the approval of terms of reference for the Essex Joint Committee Subcommittee, the Joint Finance and Performance Subcommittee, Essex Joint Quality Subcommittee. Michael Watson can't be with us because he's at an NHS England event. Tom, do you want to say anything about these three terms of reference?
Yeah, if I can. So clearly in the setup of the transitional governance for the proposed Essex ICB, we've clearly set up this joint committee, and then as part of the work that was agreed by each of the three boards was for us to then equally work on developing the proposed terms of reference for the subcommittees that will report into this group. So as set out within the paper, the proposal is that we effectively have three subgroups which will meet in a joint fashion. So the first of those is the executive team. And so the executive subcommittee. Second of those is the Essex Joint Finance and Performance subcommittee, and then finally the Essex Joint Quality Committee. The paper sets out the proposed scope for each of those groups and the decision making and the scrutiny powers of each of those, alongside obviously the if you can dive into more detail in terms of the exact details of the membership, etc. We're trying to kind of keep this as nimble as we can, whilst recognising that there's quite a lot of work to do as we move over the next few months around both transitioning from our current arrangements across the three ICBs to a single ICB, but equally also there's important knowledge building that we need to build up, and so everybody fully understands the full context of Essex and all of the work that's going on across Essex equally. And so I think I recommend the proposals to the BUT. Very keen to get any comments from joint committee members in terms of how we can strengthen this further.
Thank you. George and then Ruth.
Thanks, Mike. And just based on your workload comment, we still have a year end to run, annual report on top of the normal business as usual. My only question is on finance is where our oversight is for estates, because it's one of these subjects I don't know whether nobody seems to want to grasp it. But, and I know the estates was more the opportunities from the local authorities in terms of available space that could be converted, some with our providers. So I guess who's taking responsibility for estates in our patch?
Thanks. I mean, I think there are two things in that question, aren't there? There's the kind of here and now, where I assume it's just business as usual. it will be located where it's located, and we know in our, in the Mid and South Essex part of the patch, we know where it is currently located, and it will be the same in both in Herts and West Essex and Suffolk and North East Essex. I think it's work in progress as to how to give the necessary estates direction for the new ICB, and it's something as a joint committee we need to come to an agreement on how best to handle that, because this is going to be very important, I think, in the context of neighbourhood health hubs and all the rest of it. So I think that's something we need to get onto, but not as far as these particular three subcommittees are documented. Ruth?
Thank you. So can I firstly just also add my thanks to all of the colleagues that have been working across the three ICBs. I don't underestimate just how difficult this has been, not least given the recent announcement in terms of people's future. So I just want to, again, Tom, just make sure that we pass on our thanks to colleagues from non-executive members. Needless to say, I think these terms of reference will need quite a regular review. I know it says April. I think from my experience of just chairing the equivalent committee in the other part of the ICB world that Hertfordshire and West Essex is part of, I think even the first meeting threw up some areas that we just needed to think about and review, and there's documents emerging as we go along. So I think probably asking each of these committees to, at every meeting, just review terms of reference over the next couple of months, I think would probably be helpful.
Yeah, people were nodding as you were speaking. It's inevitable, isn't it? Because we are doing things on the run to achieve a goal as professionally and as properly as we can by the 1st of April. So everyone therefore happy with those proposals. We've approved those three joint groups there. Thank you very much indeed. Now, standing items, there is the proposed Essex ICB governance transition update, and Tom, that's you.
Thank you, Mike. So we just thought it'd be helpful, and so this will be a standing report which will come through to the Joint Committee on the work that's going on around transition due diligence, and so around the creation of the new proposed ICB. There's been an important development, I think. I just wanted to kind of state subsequent to this report being written. So as colleagues are aware, yesterday we have now commenced the consultation process with all of the teams within the ICBs to form the new team that will support the proposed Essex ICB. We're doing that in parallel with colleagues in the proposed Central East ICB and the proposed Norfolk and Suffolk ICB. But clearly it's a significant change process for Essex. We think it will be a reduction of around about a quarter in terms of our pay costs, and so I just wanted to put on record a big thank you to the teams who are working and supporting Essex across all three ICBs for their professionalism that they've shown, over the last few months, but equally, as I'm sure they will continue to show as we move through the next period of time. It's proposed that we will end that consultation in mid-January, and then that will be followed by an appointment process. The aim will be for everybody who is in scope of that consultation to know their outcome by the end of March, and so that's the timetable we're operating to. I will obviously make sure that we continue to update the Joint Committee on that. In addition to that work, there's clearly a lot of other work that has been going on as we work to set up the future arrangements, and so there's been a lot of work around finance, and we have now seen, as of I think Tuesday, the publication of the allocations for the new ICBs, and so that has been worked through and will be something that comes back in due course, and we are also working quite closely on due diligence activities, and so there's important work that we need to do looking at things like commissioning policies, where there's differences between those, and what we're going to need to do in that space, and equally also making sure that we don't lose important knowledge as we go through this transitional process as well. So we're working across the 3 ICBs to identify who are some of those key people and teams, and so we can make sure that the knowledge transfer works effectively. That's particularly important for, say, some corporate functions that currently sit within Hertfordshire and West Essex ICB and in Suffolk and North East Essex ICB, who won't necessarily be identified for transfer in due course because they are supporting their whole ICB, but there's very important knowledge to make sure that we move into Essex in terms of the arrangements in each of those 2 geographies. So that's all ongoing, and we're clearly also working very closely with partner organisations in NHS England around those functions that it is intended for them to pick up as part of the realignment of responsibilities, and so we will, because equally we will need to oversee the transition from where we're currently taking on certain responsibilities and looking at how we do a similar knowledge transfer over to those new organisations that are going to be taking on those functions in due course. So yes, Mike, I think that's everything I just wanted to say.
Thank you. And there are, so to speak, offline conversations going on at the regional level about how the detail of that is all going to work out, so that we're clear about where responsibility lies in the new way of operating for various functions, because there's quite a major change in the way that finances are going to be run, where before we've been, there's been a system level finance responsibility around each of the ICB's tables, and that is not going to be the case from the beginning of April with the new ICBs and so on. And those conversations are about trying to make sure that things don't fall in the middle, that we're all clear how it all sits. And again, going back to Ruth's earlier point, I suspect that might be an exploratory journey as we understand better what that means, because we're feeling our way into a new setup. Ruth, you wanted to come in on this one?
Yeah, thank you. And possibly I should have raised this in the previous item, but could you, Tom, just let us know, I mean, given the weather today, it's a stark reminder, we're heading off into winter. Where does the governance sit, and how does this board get assurance around ongoing issues in relation to winter planning and the response?
Yeah, so for this year, it's been agreed, the winter plan's been done on the current ICB, ICS footprints, and so we thought it would be too distracting to try and change system control arrangements and all the rest of it within each of the ICB areas, and so the planning has been done on the current footprints. Now, what we are starting to do is some work in terms of where there are opportunities and good practice between different systems about what can we learn from each other, and we're exploring that through some of the exec conversations that we're having with each of the providers in Essex at this moment in time. So I think it will flow through the finance performance route, will be the mechanism in terms of the formal, but the responsibility for the winter response will sit with the current ICBs for this winter.
A good point, because it's a stark reminder today, as when everyone was out defrosting the car, just what it is going to be like. So thank you. Okay, well that's an update. I mean, there are shifting sands around us too, because obviously there's local government reorganisation, and I don't know, Sarah, has the thing emerged about what is the public going to be consulted on now about the change in local government organisation? Has that been announced as far as Essex is concerned?
Yeah, thank you. So the consultation has now started on the footprint of the new unitaries. So as I understand it, there are 4 different consultations that the public can comment on, whether there's a version of 3, 4 or 5 different unitary authorities, and we're working our way around partners to get them to encourage the people that they are working with to be part of that consultation.
Thank you. And when does it all come out? Is it initially February, or Is that right?
I think the
John?
consultation started on Tuesday. I think the decision comes out end of January, beginning of February, in terms we should find out what the final decision is.
Okay, because that will affect our own thinking about neighbourhoods and neighbourhood hubs and so on, won't it?
Yeah.
Yes, okay, thank you. I haven't been notified of any other business. We've got the date and time of the next meeting there. So thank you very much, everybody. I think that concludes our meeting of the Essex Joint Committee. Thank you very much indeed for your attendance today. And we can now close our link. Thank you very much. And there will now be a pause.